This is the Slots and Sockets Podcast, episode number 32. I am one of your hosts, IRD Moose, and my partner in crime,
Turbo Penguin. How's it going, guys?
Happy Monday, Turbo, and happy Monday to everybody out there in Internet-topia, as we like to say.
Even you, Karen. We like you too.
Well, okay, I'll let you greet the Karen.
Okay.
So, speaking of Karen, Zotac was a bit of a Karen today, but
well, hold up. I mean, a Karen is someone
later.
who complains, and I'm not sure complaining. They gave her something to talk about, so I can't complain. It's not a Karen, I don't think. But anyways,
Jensen's probably going to want to talk to their manager. But before that,
or let me throw that out there. Maybe it was planned.
Could have been. You
Just saying.
Know.
Okay. Intel, real quick. I just wanted to talk. I know we talked last week in length about ARC and good, bad, and indifferent.
Yep.
And I was thinking about this week, and I just wanted to put it out there. I don't think that Intel ARC is bad. I don't. I think it's good for a price point. It's a very odd price point in that they're not going to get any competition with current generation stuff. Mm-hmm. It seems like the 4060, well, it's technically current generation, is it's in a price point that's kind of long in the tooth, I guess. I think it makes a lot of sense from a business perspective of why Intel priced it where it is, because I think that they can kind of look at the market and say, disrupt from a pricing and a performance perspective. Mm-hmm. I think that's a smart business decision for them.
Right.
My only notion with ARC is when next gen comes out, that's going to be a place where Intel is going to struggle when it goes and competes against current generation, the 50 series, yep, and 8000 series. Yeah. And now the other half of it is I don't know necessarily if those series are going to necessarily compete with that that price point. So I think it's just a really interesting price point. I think that's probably where you see a lot of more excitement. But anyways, I think that's kind of where I would leave the ARC stuff. I'm not going to necessarily go out and buy one. I could see here. My only thought on ARC is if I'm in a budget and I have a $250, I almost feel like I would rather cheapen out on my processor to allow me to get to a $350 price point or a $400 price point. Like if I could go to Micro Center, instead of getting, a 7800X 3D, maybe I can get the 12600K or one of those really cheap bundles. If I could save money on that side, I feel like I would get more bang for my buck on putting more money into my graphics card. Now, maybe you already have a machine and your budget really is $250. I almost wonder if maybe the notion is maybe you should save up just a little bit more to get a better performing piece. I don't say it's bad. I question, like, if I'm going to be spending $250, like $250 20 years ago got you a really, like, truly mid-range, like 70 series, 80 series style card. And I just think that because everything is stupid expensive, that we pay more for things than we really should. But anyways.
Well, and also one of the other things to consider is, if what I've heard from other news sources is true, that Intel is selling these for a pretty hefty loss, I don't know that AMD or Nvidia are even going to compete on price, because they're like, hey, you guys are selling it for a fat loss. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so here's my other thought is, if I'm a business and I know my competitors are selling it for a loss, what I don't understand is why they don't be like, yes, I'd like to buy graphics cards. I'm going to investigate all of Intel cards to make sure that they work properly. I'm going to buy
Buy
all
them
of
out.
them, buy them out, and say, "Oh, you guys can't even supply more." And every time they put a new order in, it just costs them more money. And it's like, it's like you just can't beat a dead horse.
Yeah.
And like, I know that sounds really mean,
It would
but
be
the
pretty
honest truth
evil,
is,
yes, but
it would be
clever.
pretty evil. But we realize that Jensen could himself most likely buy Intel by itself without any other help. He could just individually own both. He'd be the CEO of Nvidia and just own outright Intel. The dude's got so much money. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyways,
Yep.
I just wanted to bring that up. I kind of felt like maybe there were people who thought that I don't know. I thought maybe I was too negative, but I just, in the long run, I just question where we're really going to see this. I think right now it's positive. I think there were business decisions why we see it positive.
Yeah.
I just don't know if we're going to see it positive in like
The long run. In like a
6 months.
year.
Are we like
Yeah.
in 6 months when we have 5060 comes out and it beats the living snot out of it? Are you be like, yeah, you can get a 5060 for, anyways. But speaking of 5060s,
Speaking of the 5060, looks like
among many other things.
yeah, Zotac had an oopsie. And we were talking about this before the stream, and I think you said, if memory serves, they were the ones to leak the 40 series too, right?
So, well, they had some leaks, 40 series, and of all the leaks from the 40 series, theirs was the actually legitimate leak. Even though
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a leak, it was just a moronic posting things on their website. And
You
they've
mean
done the
just like
exact
this
same
time?
thing, just like this time again. And they did the exact same thing all over again. And so it looks like we're expecting a 32 gig 3090, a
5090.
20,
Yep.
sorry, 5090,
Slipped a
a
generation.
2040, a 24 gig 5080,
Mm-mm.
correct?
16 gig.
16 gig 5080, and it's still a 16 gig 5070, right?
So yeah, 5070 Ti is getting 60 gigs. The 5070 non
16.
Ti is getting 12. The
Oh,
5060 Ti is getting 16
okay.
gigs.
So I know where this is going to go, and I'm just going to say it because we're both thinking it.
Mm,
Please do not go buy a 5070 non Ti, and please, for the
seriously.
love of all happiness, do not go and buy a 5060 non Ti.
Yep. With
Like,
8 gigs.
gamers, like, if you're not happy with this, like, and I'm not sure, I don't think anyone's going to be happy because I think pricing is going to be expensive for all these models.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really don't want, like, if you don't like this, just don't buy it. Like, don't be the lemmings. Like, I really
Yeah.
think that there needs to be some correction, and I think that comes down to sales. So if anything, if you want to buy something, go. Even then, I make the argument all day long. 16 gigs for a 5080.
Yeah. That's like,
I
why?
just feel like 16 is
And
like
it's,
like if you're buying a gaming computer and you're spending a substantial amount of money where you're buying and getting a 50 series, or an 8000 series,
mm-hmm.
refuse to buy anything less than 16 gigs.
I
Because
would say for
at
that
12
class,
gigs,
I would say for that
12
class,
gigs
24.
is not enough. 12 gigs
No,
isn't enough.
no.
Because at that point, like, that's supposed to be on par with, like, what, a 50, I mean, a 40 80 super, maybe like a 5070, the vanilla, the
Yeah.
non-tie,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
With 12 gigs.
I mean, great, Nvidia, you've done a great thing. The 1080 Ti, you still are failing to, to kill off when you release a 5070 non-Ti with 12 gigs, which has one more
Or
gig
one more gig.
than
Yeah.
the 1080 Ti.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that really gets
The
me
game,
is
ugh.
usually the 5080 or the 80 series card has a higher bit width on the memory, and it's 256 bits, just like the 5070. Like, you're basically getting an
Hold up, is it
overclocked 5070.
GDR7?
They're all
Is it?
GDDR7.
Double check that. I thought there were a number of models that had 6X.
All of the ones that were leaked from Zotac spec'd out GDDR7 according
Mm,
to video cards.
I thought
So
that the only one we're getting GDDR7 was the 90.
that's yeah, that's not what the spec is showing right now. Um, at least not from Zotac. Now it's possible that uh, different vendors could go with GDDR6 versus GDDR7, but not super likely because, like you said, last time Zotac had leaks and they happened to be the real leaks. And since this came straight from Zotac's website,
Yeah, it is GDDR7.
um,
Um, you know,
so the
I
thing
mean,
that
here's the
gets
thing.
me,
We're going to expect to see the 5090 release
yep,
probably first. Okay.
at least on paper,
5080
yeah,
and 5070 are going to release probably roughly the same time, from what I understand. Okay. That's my guess is that you're going to have a 90 at 32 gigs, the 80 at 16, and the 70 at 12. The 5060, I'm interested to see how this does because part of me looks at the 5070 and thinks it's going to really struggle with that 12 gigs
yeah,
because I mean if you play 4K, it's not hard. And the other half I believe, and I think that this is part of just evolution. I think that developers in some respects are getting better at having higher res images.
mm-hmm,
I also think that between that and maybe some sloppiness, that you're using a lot more RAM. Like you look at how much RAM we use today in browsing is like
oh,
way more than we did 3, 5, 10 years ago.
yeah,
And I think a lot of it's just because, well, we've everyone has 16 gigs of RAM.
yeah,
And so no one really cares. And it made a big difference when your systems used to have, like, a good system used to have 8, right? Like a really good performing system. And now everyone's got 32, 64,
dude.
whatever.
For the longest time, I thought I was balling with 18 gigs.
Right. I mean, that's it. So, um,
Triple channel for the win and
I mean,
mismatched sets.
I just question that 5070. It really angers
Yeah.
me. Um, because I part of me makes it the reason that we're seeing the 5070, 5070 Ti with a different um memory amount is because the only limiting factor between those two is going to be the graphics,
Well, it's
the
yeah,
VRAM.
it's one less chip. And we might see lower clocks on the 5070, but when we look at clock differentiation between the 4070 and the 4070 Ti, you can overclock a 4070 to match the Ti clocks. So that's
There's a
negligible.
core
It's
count
it's the memory.
difference. The
True,
core
there is a
count
core count difference.
there's a core count difference, and it's not small. I mean, it's 2500 core compute, so the 5070 Ti is going to be a faster card for sure.
I mean, if they launch
Far more,
all of these cards at the same time, if they all hit
33%
shelves,
more. Yeah,
if they hit the shelves at the same time,
they won't.
I would, yeah, more than likely it's going to be a staggered thing where the TIs come out like three, four
Ti is
months
going to come
later.
out in like 6, 9 months. I mean,
Yeah,
that's my expectation is we'll see those. I think it'll go 5090, then 5080, then 5070, and I think by the end of the summer we'll have 5060. Um, trying to mop up any extra sales. I think then the follow up question is going to be, when do you see the tie and which version comes out? They both come out at the same time.
yep,
I could see that. The other question, and I think this is where a lot of gamers are really going to be loaded to have the question is, where does this put pricing?
mm-hmm,
I am very interested. Now we've seen some stuff that say they want to say 1999 or 2500. We don't know. We will
yep,
know on January 26th when Jensen gets on stage and tells us what it is. I really think it's a completely last minute pricing piece that we're going to see.
yeah,
Um, I think that it's something that they can easily say, and that's what it is. You don't put a price on a box. You don't have to worry about it. And it's a super easy fix to be like this, that. not 1999, it's only 17.99.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. Um,
Exactly.
the other half, I just point out and say the 5090 pricing is important because if that's where they scale everything down from there, the 80
Yep.
price is going to get impacted, the 70 price gets impacted, all of them. Now, typically speaking, when I go buy a card, I like to buy the Ti version or the AMD 50 version. So like I'm not necessarily sure I would be super interested in buying like a 5070 or a 5060. But if at a price point you sit there and say, well, I'm waiting for the 5060 Ti or
Yeah.
the 5070 Ti. The honest truth is if the 5070 Ti slots into the same pricing bracket as the 5070, and it just kind of moves down to be another price bracket, you know, it is a 33% bump in cores. It's a 33% bump in memory. And, you know, it's going to be a good bump in, I think, longevity, but also performance. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I think if we look at the product stack as it is right now, um, just just for spitballing, what do you think the enthusiast card, the 5090, because the 5090 really is the enthusiast card of these generations. What do you think that would go for to be considered a big win
If I will a win for who? I think that's the loaded question.
for
Where
gamers?
does for gamers? I mean, Nvidia's not going to like it, but I mean, honestly, I would say 1200 for that.
Okay. I was thinking kind of along the lines of 1500, but yeah, in that ballpark, I
I
think
mean,
makes
look,
sense.
if you're asking me like, what do I want? I want a $1,200 900 card. I want you know, a $700 80 series card
Yeah.
and a 499 50 series card.
Yeah.
And the 5060 should be 350, $400.
Yeah. I think they would kill at those prices.
I mean,
Now,
they
whether or
would. I
not
mean,
they
that's
can
the
sell
problem
it,
is that they'll kill and
yeah.
they would sell out. But I mean, I sort of wonder if they'll sell out as it is. So,
Well, and to kind of the question on Intel, is that going to be profitable for them? So,
well, look, I mean, let's be honest here. If AMD, if Intel, if AMD and Nvidia wanted to bury Intel, they would bring out the 8600 XT and the 5060 on release date and be like, here's a 5060. It is, yes, it's 8 gigs, but whatever. It's
299,
330 bucks.
330. Okay. Sure.
But
Intel
you know,
wouldn't stand a chance.
you get our wonderful software, you get our DLSS, you get all of the software and the driver support and everything else. And oh, by the way, it's double the performance of Intel Arc B580.
And you can do path tracing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just beat the living snot out of them. But they could. Um,
I mean,
and
Intel's been doing a good job of beating themselves, so that would be a bit overkill. But yeah, I
all I would say though is that from well, that would be really mean. The honest truth is it's business. And if
mm-hmm,
you have the opportunity to just beat the snot out of your competitor, um, there are people who think that you should absolutely do it. And at the end of the day, it is good and bad. It is good
mm-hmm,
for gamers who want to buy something right now because you could get something at a good performance at a really good price, albeit maybe even losing some money.
yeah.
But hey,
In the
Intel's
long
losing
run,
money, at least for what we see right now. So
yeah,
what's them saying? Okay, well, we'll lose money too.
yeah,
Let's
exactly.
all just lose money
Like,
and gamers win until they don't have any choices. And then at that point, we all get screwed.
I mean, that's kind of the game they've been playing this whole time anyway.
I mean, that's been Nvidia for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
legitimately, there hasn't been competition. And, as much as I love my 6,000 series card and I liked my 7,000 series card,
mm-hmm.
I'll be dead honest. I don't think that AMD is doing a very good job of competing in this price point.
No, they're not.
I
And
just,
The only people really that are buying it are people who are either sick and tired of getting abused by Nvidia or diehard AMD fanboys.
Agreed.
And I don't think that's a good long-term marketing strategy. And I'm very, very much hopeful that the coming changes with UDNA might have a chance of turning that around. So, well, I think on that bombshell, we are going to call it a show for the evening. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate you giving us a little bit of your day. And, remember to like and subscribe and do all the algorithmic goodness down in the doobly-doo below. Because we do love seeing your comments and calling me a bald dork who doesn't know what they're talking about. So until next time, have fun storming the castle.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.